going on, everyone? I'm going to show you today how to replace the crankcase breather filter on your 6.7 liter Cummins. This is in a bread van chassis, so I have the doghouse removed and I'm coming from the back side. On a pickup truck, this will be the same steps, you'll just be coming from the front. Okay, so the only thing really different here is you can maybe see there's this hose, that rubber hose right here that I'm poking with my flashlight. That hose comes off the intake pipe right before the turbo, and that's plugged off. It used to run up to here, but now that's just plugged off down there, and there's a breather filter here. The customer was having issues with it freezing up in the winter, so we did that little bypass kit. So everything else will be the same. So you should have that hose down there, should run up to your breather, and if it's this style clamp, you'll need a 5/16 socket, and if it's this style clamp down here, you just need a pair of pliers. You just pinch it together and then you can slide the clamp down. So we're gonna go ahead, and since I don't need to unhook a hose, this is kind of free floating, we're not going to unhook that. We're just going to move on to the next part, which is unbolting this. It's held on with 8mm bolts. So we're going to grab an 8mm socket. Just going to go ahead, crack them all loose. They shouldn't be very tight, they're not that big of bolts. We're going to work our way around, loosen all 8 of them. Then once they're loose, just work them all the way out, remove all 8 of them, set them to the side, don't lose them, we will need to reuse them. Alright, now that all the bolts are removed, we're going to remove the oil fill cap, because that is going to be the last thing holding this on. Set that to the side. Now we should be able to just lift and remove. Set this off to the side. So now here's your actual crankcase breather filter. This should also, it might take some persuasion, but should also be able to just lift up on that. I'm gonna have to grab a little flathead or a pry bar here. It's a little stuck down. Alright, I've got a pry bar here. This might be a little bit overkill, but like the phrase goes, overkill is underrated. So I'm just gonna give it a little pop. You shouldn't have to pry very hard. If you do, something's wrong. Alright. There it is. This whole thing gets chucked in the trash. Don't need it anymore. Next, I'm going to take a rag and wipe out all this dirt that fell in here, and I'm going to wipe off this gasket mating surface here. Make sure that's all nice and clean, as well as same thing on here, wipe off where the gasket's going to seal. Make sure everything's nice and clean for assembly. Done with the cover. Alright, we've got this all wiped out. Gasket surface is all clean. You want to make sure that this gasket sticks up a bit. If it's all matted down, you'll need a new one. I'll try to find a part number for that and link it in the description below if I can find one. Another thing to note is you can see there's these little intrusions here with O-rings on them that go down into the valve cover there. So what I do is I usually also wipe those out. Make sure there's no grime there. And then I'm not sure if the pickup truck versions have this, but you want to watch at the back here, there's this little drain hole for the oil to go back into the engine. You want to make sure there's no obstructions there. If there's any debris, make sure to clear it out of the way, pull it out of there. It's not supposed to be there. Now that we have everything all cleaned up, here's our new filter. OEM part number CV52001. I will put a link in the description where you can get this if you'd like. You can just click that link, and we're gonna go ahead and unbox it. Always match up your parts before you throw them in. Make sure they're the same. Same but new, obviously. Alright. If you would like, which I probably will just because I'm kind of OCD and meticulous about it, I'm just going to take a little bit of grease and smear it on the O-rings just so there's no binding when I push down on it. It'll go in nice and smooth. Little lube goes a long way. Alright, clear sailing from here. Obviously the rounded edge faces the back of the truck, at least in this application. Got everything all cleaned up. Just going to set it in place and push down. And there's one more O-ring here I'm going to lube up. And we'll be ready to put our cover on. O-ring is lubricated. Going back on with the final cover. Now going to reinstall the 8mm head bolts, finger tight. Now Cummins recommends replacement of this, I want to say every 60,000 miles if I remember correctly. That's going to obviously differ depending on your application. This truck idles a lot, so it gets replaced more often than that. Alright, now the torque spec on these is 13 foot-pounds, but that seems a little high to me, especially considering how small the bolt is, and they only thread into brass nutserts. So if you're one of those people that has to torque everything, I wouldn't go any more than 10 foot-pounds. I usually just use my 1/4-inch ratchet here, and you can kind of feel it bottom out. It just won't move anymore, and then you just give it a little snug, and then that's it. I usually try to start in the center and work my way down on both sides, just as a general torque pattern. So I'm going to go ahead, finish tightening these. Alright, we're all snugged up. Now if you had to remove your hose here, make sure to reinstall the hose as well as tighten the clamp. And last but not least, do not forget about your oil fill cap. And that's that. Job's done. If this video helped you out, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe for more videos like this. Also check me out on Facebook at Tony the Truck Guy. Thanks for watching.